When discussing all of the idols in the Splatoon franchise, DerpKnight are often left to the side. With how iconic the Squid Sisters are, dating back to the first game in the series, and Off the Hook's incredible story throughout Splatoon 2's Octo expansion, it can be easy to forget about them despite their inclusion in the most recent game, Splatoon 3. That said, I think these three have some of the most fun personalities and identities in the whole series. But why exactly is that? And what about DerpKnight speaks to me so loudly 3 years after their debut? To start things off, I'm going to briefly discuss each member individually, and then I'll get to their music and why they work so well as a group. But with all of that out of the way, let's start out with Shiver. Shiver Hohojiro was born into a clan of shark tamers, participating in grueling activities that not even the best shark tamers in the world would dare attempt from such a young age. Her last name comes from the clan she was born into, the Hohojiro clan, its name deriving from a type of shark called a Hojiro. She was seen as a prodigy of sorts, and it was through this hobby that she met many people, such as her partner in battle, Master Mega. Honestly, part of me is kinda surprised that Shiver even became friends with the others. I mean, look at her, she's straight up hitting her shark and blaming it. Someone please call her out for animal abuse. She also asked Big Man to do several retakes on their most popular song, Anarchy Rainbow. Forget animal abuse, we also gotta call her out for Big Man abuse, that is just not cool. But honestly, it kinda comes from a good place. Shiver embraces the idea that sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. She's not afraid to ditch the status quo and fix something that could be so much better. Additionally, Shiver has a cool, rebellious, and heavily Japan-inspired design. She wears a white Sarashi chest strap rooted from Japanese culture, as well as some black tabby-like boots on her feet. And let's not forget her headgear, symbolizing a traditional hachimaki headband, one typically worn in Japanese festivals and gatherings. It's not just her looks that represent Japan either, her singing style seems to represent traditional Japanese songs. She even frequently uses kakagoe, a shout used in Japanese performances. All of this comes together to create a fairly unique and different character that we haven't really seen before in this franchise, being by far the most rebellious and villainous idol on the surface. But Shiver does open up eventually, and when she does, she is a force to be reckoned with. And for all that stands in her way, be it a simple battle or a world-destroying, giant, business-owning grizzly bear, Shiver is certainly going to bring her best to any and all challenges presented to her, with tenacity and grace. Frye Onaga was born into a family of eel charmers, which was fairly famous in the Splatlands. She was raised by her grandfather because her parents went to see the world, which, can I just say, is one of the worst things you can do to a child, especially since Frye had a younger brother and many twin sisters. I'm no parent, but that is seriously concerning, and I'd probably call child services. But anyone could be fooled by this horrible upbringing. She quickly became skilled with not only eel charming and training, but also dancing as well. While Shiver can be mysterious and hard to follow, Frye is quite the opposite. Frye loves to brag about her plethora of abilities, such as using her eels as missiles, or using her eels to create giant tornadoes, or using her eels to launch a shark to launch a squid kid out of orbit. Honestly, she should probably diversify her repertoire a bit though. Frye isn't afraid to make her presence known, upkeeping her family's fame and even representing Team Fame in the Love vs Money vs Fame Splatfest later down the line. She's very loud and incredibly good with crowds of any size, be it a few eels or a literal live concert with thousands of real people. Both events are canon somehow, don't ask me. Frye doesn't just wear her peppy attitude on her sleeve, but the culture she represents too. Frye seems to be based on Indian culture, which is something that we've never ever seen before in a Splatoon game. Her baggy trousers pull inspiration from some traditional Indian dance attire. Even her last name Onaga probably derives from the word Naga, meaning snake in various Indian languages. Much like Shiver in Japan, Frye is a very faithful representation of the country of India. In fact, one of DerpKnight's biggest strengths as a group is just how much representation they have with these different backgrounds. But whether it be singing atop rooftops, whisking up whirlpools, dancing till death's door, or leading the news for a whole city, Frye's got the power to set the hearts of the masses alight with positivity and energy. Big Man is without a doubt seen as the outlier of sorts in DerpKnight, but his backstory doesn't reflect this at all. Much like the others, he was born into a clan, this time called the Manta clan. His family treated him very well, with a warm, affectionate upbringing. Certainly a nice change of pace from whatever the hell Frye had going on. By middle school, Big Man had taken an interest in songwriting, becoming skilled at the piano and even music production, which is really ironic because how on earth does Big Man even touch the piano without playing half the keys at once? I mean, his hands, if you even want to call them that, are literally as wide as a football field. Anyway, Shiver and Frye Frye had made friends with him before, so they both decided to take him under their wing, officially forming the trio as we know it today. From Big Man's perspective, this was probably both the best and worst decision he had ever made. The good news is that Big Man brought immense value to the group, with a laid-back and mediating personality, which is similar to how he was treated in his upbringing. While Shiver and Frye are more rebellious and energetic due to how they were raised, Big Man often brings them back down to earth and keeps them in check. He's more optimistic than even the likes of Frye, and never resorts to violence unless it is absolutely necessary to protect those he loves. After all, as a wise man once said, "The exercise of kindness in battle leads to victory, and the exercise of kindness in defense leads to security." Big Man does an amazing job at completely disproving this quote as Frye punches him in the face, kicks him, wrestles him, and criticizes him directly, and then forces him to compose a song about the whole situation where their argument is recorded live, all for trying to make amends with the Squid Sisters and Off the Hook twice in 1 year. As I said, the best and worst decision he ever made. Shiver and Frye do appreciate his help though, as Deep Cut would be nothing without a little instrumentation, and Big Man is one skilled producer as the songs he writes are absolutely stellar, incorporating instruments and scales from all three cultures represented by Deep Cut. Speaking of cultures, Big Man's is unfortunately incredibly hard to pin down. However, his musical style seems to have some Brazilian and samba inspiration, which is completely across the globe from where Shiver and Frye are derived from. Despite his struggles as Big Man or his alter ego, Ian BGM, Big Man is undoubtedly one of the most unique and beloved characters we've ever seen in this franchise. Whether it be collaborating with the Squid Sisters, getting assaulted by his friends, or collecting all of the 7 Chaos Emeralds to turn into Super Big Man, if our favorite manta ray wasn't there to keep everyone in check, Splatsville may have fallen into ruin. Moving on to a topic that's a lot more widespread, Deep Cut's music is pretty alright on the surface. They generally stick to the genre of EDM and electronic music, making heavy use of various synths such as in songs like Till Death Do Us Part and Hide and Sleek. However, when you delve deeper, no pun intended, you begin to recognize the subtle cultural references in their songs. Some songs have it more pronounced than others, but from the scales to the instruments to the vocals, there is a lot to unpack here. I'm not an expert in music, not even close, but what I can do is try and deconstruct their songs to showcase the detail of their composition, which I would argue is much more interesting than the other two idol groups. Shiver implements Japanese singing techniques such as the aforementioned kakagoe and cultural scales. Scales are basically the notes which are used to get from one end of an octave to another. So the simplest would be starting from C, then to D, E, F, and so on until you reach the next highest C. She also notably uses Japanese flutes. Frye's singing is fun and somewhat indicates a festival being in sight. She also makes use of instruments tied to Indian culture, like a sitar and a pungi flute, which is actually said to be used as a snake charmer. Ironic and a very cool detail. Big Man takes inspiration from samba and Brazilian music, making use of samba whistles, beats, horns, and vocals in the background. He's also in charge of making all of the music, so I can just imagine him with a giant checklist of instruments to include at like 4 AM composing the latest Splatfest song. On a real note though, whoever composed these songs is incredibly talented because they sound amazing, despite the fact that these different instruments should clash. And I think this is the idea that really makes me love Deep Cut. Let's take their famous Anarchy Rainbow as an example. The song begins with the pungi flute combined with many other world instruments and synths. Shiver then sings with a rising pentatonic scale, which makes the song sound like a hopeful beginning, but not one that would overwhelm the listener. Big Man's interlude is fairly short afterwards, but it's energetic, which transitions into Frye's performance. She uses an Indian singing technique, making use of gamakas, which involves oscillating between different notes when singing. In addition to the pungi, a sitar is added to further drive the Indian inspiration for Frye's character. Finally, the Brazilian samba is here, with different whistles and beats to represent Big Man. You can hear how all three idols are represented in this song so well. Despite how many different instruments and musical ideas are at play, the song sounds so harmonic, which I think is beautiful. For many people, when they heard Anarchy Rainbow for the first time, they felt so many different things. It's such a chaotic song, reflecting the game's central theme of chaos with a plethora of different sounds that you'll not be able to hear even after hours of listening. There are so many different influences in the song that gives the impression of the whole world coming together. Japanese, Indian, Brazilian, cultures which are so beautiful and yet so different, but they work in tandem to make an incredible song. And if that's what you're hearing, who wouldn't feel moved by such a song? It's proof that no matter who you are, when we all work together and accept each other, it creates something magical that you wouldn't be able to experience otherwise. There's no denying that something like this is chaotic and incredibly difficult to control, but there's beauty in that. The ability to act with your own free will is the beautiful thing about chaos, and Deep Cut symbolizes this perfectly to me. That's why their main song is called Anarchy Rainbow, because it expresses the benefits of freedom. Anarchism isn't something that I'm going to delve too deep into, because this is a Splatoon video and not a political message. But if we can cooperate enough and agree to accept each other, then the end result is something truly beautiful. The song takes me to a place where everyone, no matter who they are, can thrive. And it's that idea that brings me so much joy. It's the reason why I can't bring myself to prefer any of the other idols, because their music doesn't make me feel anywhere close to this. After all is said and done, Deep Cut are an icon of what happens when people are free to express themselves no matter their differences. All three of these members were born into different clans, with completely different ideologies and culture. When they try to lead Splatsville alone, their flaws are clear. Shiver is too hot-headed, Frye is too oblivious, and Big Man is too quiet. But when they come together, despite their differences in their ways of life, they're able to unite as Splatsville's leaders to create a place where everyone is free. Free from oppression or control, each member contributes their own different but beautiful part to create their diverse and large-scale songs that feel like the whole world is coming together. Yes, it's chaotic, yes, it's loud, but it's freeing and emotionally so powerful. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, as long as we're free from oppression and can express ourselves, we can all create something special. There were many things that I could do for this game's 3rd anniversary. A fun private battle with friends, a reflection on how the game's update cycle was, and many other ideas that I'm sure people have come up with. But since Splatoon Raiders is coming up, and we'll probably get a lot more information about Deep Cut later down the line, take this video as a baseline for what the group symbolizes. These three mean so much to me, and I've always wanted to share why that is. And to do it on Splatoon 3's anniversary was an opportunity I just couldn't pass up. So yes, the Squid Sisters are iconic, and Off the Hook have an absolutely amazing story and relationship. But what Deep Cut represents is just so special to me. I wouldn't have this game or its idols any other way.